10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
All right, welcome back to the Takeover, joined by Jimmie Oakman, taking over all channels of Rising Coaches, social media channels, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, the podcast, all of it. Jimmie Oakman, Long Island Nets. Jimmy, good morning, man. How are you?
Good morning, man. I'm doing great. We were just kind of talking about it. Got a good night's sleep, ready to go. Fun-filled day, basketball, preseason's here. Red Sox are tonight, too, so I'm excited.
Yeah, you look spry today, Jimmy.
Yeah, I'm in a good mood. I'm in a really good mood.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Back in New York. Yeah. Last time we talked to you, you were commuting back and forth from Boston to New York. Where are we? We're back home today?
We're back in New York. I thought about flying out to Tampa Bay for tonight and tomorrow, but I got to find out somebody else that might want to come with me. So if anybody out there wants to go, we can make it happen. But right now, we're going to stay in New York.
I love it. You're worldwide, man. Well, appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm Adam Gordon. Of course, this is Jimmie Oakman. Today's episode is brought to you by Fulcrum Technology, the best video editor on the market and at a fraction of the cost. So for more information on how to take your video needs to the next level and save your program thousands and thousands of dollars, go hit up fulcrumtech.com. There's no H in tech. fulcrumtech.com. Jimmy, excited for today's show. We got some great guests joining us later. We've got the one and only Chris Oliver from Basketball Immersion, one of the best in the business. Always interesting to talk to. He's always got fascinating takes on how to teach the game. We'll be joined by Brandon Rosenthal, of course, of Rising Coaches and Arizona State men's basketball. And then a little bit later in the show, we'll jump on with Eric Gracia, video coordinator for Penn State women's basketball. And so we're going to have some great discussions. We've got some great topics to cover today. The poll question is a good one, Jimmy. I know you're teed up and ready to roll on this one. Least favorite drill. What is your least favorite drill? That is the poll question of the day. Please chime in on social media, in the comments, or tag us on Twitter. Tell us, what is your least favorite drill? Jimmy, start us off. What drill do you not like?
Yeah, there's two kinds of ways that I was thinking about this. One, for me, we kind of hit on it yesterday a little bit, was the Iron Man drill that people take the charge, dive on the floor, save the ball. It's just, it's more for show than anything. People just want to get on camera and, this is what we do. The coaches do it, and it's it's kind of stupid and goofy. I just don't like any of that stuff. I don't think it teaches anything. I think it's, how many times you dive on the floor? I don't know. The guys that do it, do it organically. They're not going to be taught how to dive on the floor. It's more of a mentality. So I'm not with any of that. But in general, I think for me, the thing that kills me is, at least in the pro game and kind of how we approach practice, is the right way to do it. Guys are stretching, getting loose with the trainers and everything that they're doing. They get on the floor, do skilled work, skill development, get ready for the practice. And then once it's team-based, everything's going to be competitive and live. I don't think you want to ramp the guys up, scale it back down. I think a lot of times in college, things are non-competitive, very all right, we're going to do this closeout drill, and it's chop your feet, and it's just bad, sloppy technique. And, the players aren't getting anything out of it. And so I think anytime once you're live with your team, it needs to be competitive, or it needs to be at least defended, and real decision needs to be happening. I know Chris is going to probably hit on that too, but I think there needs to be a decision made in the process of drills. So, long-winded way of saying there's a lot of things I don't like.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think Chris Oliver is definitely going to agree with you on the non-competitive drills. I know he is not a fan and loves throwing in a defender no matter what. So that'll be great. We'll talk a little bit more about practice here in just a minute, Jimmy. But I like the charge drills. I'm going to respectfully disagree with you there. I think especially maybe not at the pro game, maybe not at the pro level, but when you're in college and you get some freshmen that have never taken a charge before, I think you do have to teach them hey, it's not going to hurt. Let's go through this in a safe setting so you can practice getting hit in the chest. There is a way. You got to fall down to sell it.
There is. There is.
And I do think you can condition like diving on the floor and being like if that's what your program's about. There's some programs like the old Larry Shyatt drill, no out of bounds in their scrimmages. It just teaches that mentality that you mentioned.
I think with charges I might be biased. Like I would just love to get rid of charges in general. Like
you just hate charges. You're like the only coach.
Yeah, like I just don't think it's a basketball play. Like I think if you're athletic enough and you're playing the sport, you should be able to. I don't want anyone to slide into somebody and get hurt. If you're on the ball and like he barrels through you or throws his shoulder, those are the ones that are fine. Like I get it. But I'm talking about like, got an advantage on your guy. Somebody else slides in there and takes, last second. Like that's not a basketball play. Like this is just not a basketball play. Like go block a shot, or go vertical, make a play on the basketball. I get it. Like in high school, people get jazzed up about taking charges, stepping in the lane, and they pack the paint, stuff like that. But it's really not basketball. Those are usually the teams that aren't good enough anyway. So I just like to remove that part of the game. So.
Yeah, but if we threw you out there in a script, like you would be, come on, if you got some dude coming down the lane, like your only chance to stop him is to stand in front and take the charge. You'd be doing it. That's all I'm saying.
I'm gonna foul the hell out of him. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm not gonna let it happen. I'm not going vertical.
Yeah, you got some surprising vertical leap, maybe. That we don't know about.
Six fouls to burn. That's what I got.
That's funny. Okay, so least favorite drill for Jimmie Oakman is any charge drill, diving on the floor, and anything that is not live. I love it. Okay, before we dive into this conversation about practices a little bit more, just a quick recap of everything that we have going on. Science of Basketball is going to be an unbelievable conference that we're hosting next week, all virtual. Brandon Rosenthal is going to join us shortly. Did an amazing job putting together some really pointed topics and building some expert panels around those topics. Some of the most forward-thinking people in all of sports in the world will join us next week. For more info on that conference, go to risingcoaches.com. It's free, so if it's for our members, but if you're not a member and you want to watch, we're offering a free trial membership for 17 days. So sign up. You can enjoy the conference on us. We're banking on the fact that we're going to convince you to stick around and be a part of Rising Coaches for the year. But if it's not for you, you can cancel at any time without being charged. So head to risingcoaches.com. There's a full itinerary that's been released. All the speakers are up there. So everything you'll need to know is on the website. Also, while you're on the website, you can find the Women's Empowerment Series from October 4th and the 5th. We put together some unbelievable speaker panels, college administrators, former Division I coaches, agents, the likes. It was moderated by Liberty legend, former Liberty legend, former WNBA All-Star, Kim Hampton, and she did an unbelievable job. So make sure you check that out as well. Okay, Jimmie, let's talk a little bit about practice. We talked about the drill you don't like. Tell me your thoughts on first, let's start with this. How is practice different at the pro level than it was when you were at the college level and than it was when you were at the high school level?
I think the thing about the pro game is there's so much less things that can happen. And, we don't got to worry about zones. We don't got to worry about teams that are pressing. There's so much less that we have to worry about. So yes, it's a big picture, more so at the pro level for sure, but even magnified by the fact that we don't have to worry about putting in a 1-3-1 zone or 2-3 zone or whatever. But the thing I've noticed is there's just everybody has an individual plan. It's not a team development type setting. Like, especially when you get in season, like if you play a game on a Wednesday night in college basketball, your top 9 play the game, right? And for us at the pro level, like we play Wednesday night, top 9 play the game. Well, what are players 10 through 13 doing that day that didn't get minutes, right? Most college programs don't have an answer for it. Like that day is also a day for development as well for those guys. And their quote unquote load should be the same as the guys that have played so that they're ready to go and they're still not missing kind of a beat on their development. I think that's really important. When you kind of, backtrack practice. But practice for me, like at the pro level, we're not missing a step. I think we're getting in our player development every day. We call it a daily vitamin with our guys and we're working on something specific to their development. It's usually one guy, maybe 2 at a time, but really more than that, especially in season once we get going to practice. And then once we go to practice, it's really, if we have it, right from training camp, that's when you kind of introduce everything. But after training camp, it's just everything's going to be live and you're really trying to rep things out and do what happens in the game. We're not spending 20 minutes working on a jump ball play. We're not spending time shooting free throws in practice and taking, 10 minutes, of the 90 minutes we're on the floor shooting free throws. It's just a waste of time that, we can't get back. I think we really value our players at this level. And, if we got 60 minutes on the team, like on the court as a team, we better be very efficient in what we do. And so, it's going to be 30 minutes competing, 15 minutes of offense. We're going to break down the offense to these little chunks so that they can understand the muscle memory that goes behind it. Everything is going to be live, competitive. And once we're done, we're done. We don't need to sit there and, break up a drill and, we're going to do 3-man weave to get them loose. We're going to do this to get them loose. And, college, it's 45 minutes in, you haven't even gone competitive yet, and the guys are already tired because you just had them running. So that's just a little bit of kind of, looking into it from my lens that I've seen from high school, college to the pros.
Yeah. Do you still have to do that? I guess that was my next question. At the professional level, are you still having to do drills to get them warmed into practice? Or are these guys ready to roll? They're professionals, or maybe it's just like on them, like figure it out. But when the clock hits 9, we're started.
That's sort of, I think, the approach at this level is like, hey, if we, you met with the athletic trainer, you got your rehab, prehab, whatever you needed, your correctives, your stretching, whatever you needed to get loose for that day for you individually, practice, and then, practice starts a half hour after that. You got your lift in beforehand to practice starts at whatever it is, 11 o'clock. Like, there's a chance we go live at 11:01. Like, we could be going out there full speed. You got to be ready to go. So I think it's kind of on us coaches to tell them that too, especially, if we do deal with guys that are first-time pros, whether they're 19 or 23, it doesn't really matter, that this is practice. Like, once we're with the team, like, anything goes. So if you're not ready to go, like, you're going to get your ass whooped. And so you got to be able to go when the bell answers, like, be ready to answer the bell when it rings. So I think that's a big adjustment for a lot of people, but understanding, like, we're ready to go. We're not wasting time at college.
One of the big misnomers or perceptions that are out there are that like NBA teams don't practice, which obviously that's not accurate. I think training camp, like you mentioned, gives it a different dynamic because you get this 2-week period before the season starts to really hammer in on what you're trying to implement in terms of offensively, defensively. But talk to us about that. Like, all right, first of all, is it true NBA teams don't practice? Of course not, right?
You're right. It's definitely not true. It's coming from the college game where basically once guys move in for the fall, you can practice and you don't play until November 9th, 10th, or somewhere around that time, right? So you roughly have 40 days of practice with these guys. And coaches, they're getting ready for the scrimmage and they're like, oh, we haven't got this in, we haven't got that in. And I'm like, we get 5 practices in 1 scrimmage in the G League before we can play a game. And so I'm just amazed. They're like, we don't have blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, what are you doing in practice? What are you teaching your guys? Like, just, I know that a couple of years ago, they moved the schedule. You got 2 more weeks and you could still, get 30 practices in 42 days or whatever it was at the time. And coaches were still scrambling over 6 weeks worth of time. And I'm like, you don't have that at this level. Like, you got to be able to teach and, adjust on the fly. And that, for us at this level, once you get into the season, it's really hard to practice. Like, if you're coming off back to back, that might be the one day you take off. But, if you got a day in between, like I was saying, if you have some guys on your roster, like 9, 10, 11, 12 that don't play, like, they're still going to play 3-on-3. They're still playing, they're still getting reps those days. So no matter what, we're doing something. Some guys can only go live for 10 minutes this day. Some other guys can go 30 minutes, the full practice. And so it's a balancing act, but every player is so individualized. It's not like, oh, we're going to get the team off because, 6 guys played 30 minutes. No, like, those guys might need to get some shots up, get the blood flowing, but, 7 through 10 can go 15 minutes and 11 through 15 got to be able to do a full practice. So that's kind of how we look at it.
How is, like, I'm just, obviously all my experience came at the college level, and I'm imagining that, load management in practice. And I would imagine that, especially at college when you're dealing with younger people and obviously with youth comes immaturity, I would imagine that would create all kinds of like chemistry problems. Like, oh, this dude played and he doesn't have to practice. Like,
right.
Does that happen at the pro level, or are those guys just, so much older and more professional that they get it?
I think there's a little bit of both, and it's such a fair thing to say, like, and it kind of went to my year-round player development. I was talking to some coaches about this. Like, you got to have a year-round, 4-year, like, idea of what this player is going to become. And they can't be worried about what, the other player on the roster that's playing X amount of minutes. If you're a freshman coming to the program, you got to sell it to him like, we're trying to make you the best player possible. And if you play 12 minutes this game, we need to get you up to the level that you played like 30 that day. So we're going to have to do more with you. And they got to own their own development and be like, yeah, you're responsible for it. Let's get better today so that you can be better tomorrow. And it's all how you sell it. And our guys at this level too, they understand it. And we care about every player's development equally. And whether you played 30 minutes, like we've had players that DNP, and then the next game they play 10 minutes, DNP, then all of a sudden they play 35. And just being ready to go, like that's just the nature kind of the G League. So telling them like, yeah, you might be upset today that you didn't play as much as you wanted to, but like, stick with us, like, and trust the process that we're trying to follow here and understand that your development is the priority for us. We're not trying to get you extra reps just to get you extra reps. That's not the plan. Like we're trying to get you better. That's what it should always be about. And I think college kind of misses the boat with that a little bit. And, they tell everybody that comes in, you're going to play, you're going to play, you're going to play. And then they don't play, but there's no contingency plan of like, this is how we're going to get you better. They just want guys that are made products and, go out there and produce. And if they stick around, great, then you're going to play more minutes next year because you're a year older and got better organically rather than having a plan that you follow throughout the process. So that's just kind of how I look at it.
We're talking about practice here today with Jimmie Oakman of the Nets. Jimmie, I would also imagine that like when you introduce a new play, your guys like I would think pick it up so much quicker than a typical college team or high school team. At that age, I'm sure they've seen every offense out there. And that seems to be the separator is the basketball IQ. Can you guys put in a set and after like, a couple minutes, your team's got it?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the case. Like sometimes we'll introduce a play. The first team will walk through it like 60%, and that's it. Like we'll come back to it, and like when we go live, when we go, and we'll be like, hey, let's run away, and like you better know it, and you better know, if you're a 2, you better know the 3 or the 1. If you're a 4, you better know the 3. Like all those things. And I think there's definitely an element of it, but like how we teach it, I think it's what's most important. Like you got to teach the highest levels of your team so that the top 3 or 4 players understand it and the other guys try to keep up with that. You can't be trying to teach the players 8 through 10 that don't understand it because they're the ones that drag you down. You got to teach the highest levels, the best players engaged at all time and raise the water. And you can't just continually drop it to the other guys because then you're going to lose the top players. They're not going to focus. They're not going to get the plays down. Hopefully you teach it well enough that they understand it and they pull everybody with them. And then it creates urgency from the guys like, the top 1, 2, and 3 know it. Well, 8, 9, and 10 better really be locked in. And they're not messing around the sidelines when you're introducing stuff. Because you don't want to run through a play and be like, all right, run this one or run this option. It shouldn't be taking you 20 minutes to put in one play. Because it's going to take a minute and just keep it going.
I love it. Okay, we're going to bring in our first guest today. We are joined by Brandon Rosenthal of Arizona State basketball and Rising Coaches, of course. Brandon, good morning, man. Bright and early on the West Coast over there.
I know. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Absolutely. So this is, Jimmy's doing a 5-day takeover, so I'm getting to do my 5-minute takeover, right? I think that's about all I can handle here anyway. So.
No, I love it. We're talking practice here. Jimmy's giving his thoughts, and I'm sure you have plenty of thoughts of your own. And it kind of ties directly into our poll question of the day. What is your least favorite drill? Jimmie is not a fan of taking charges in practice and diving on the floor. Brandon, what is your least favorite drill?
Oh, man.
In the next room listening, so don't.
Right, no question. You know what? Can we go with warm up? With literally stretching. With eliminating the dynamic stretching. Although I should be careful because when I was in college, I went to school in upstate New York. It's pretty cold out there, so I needed every minute of stretching. But as a coach, that 10 to I don't know, maybe 15 minutes of stretching, it's a long 15 minutes sometimes.
It's funny. I was on the road recruiting one time, and Heath Schroyer was in the gym, and at the time he was an assistant at BYU, but of course Heath's run many programs. He did a great job at UT Martin. He's currently the AD at McNeese State. He was a head coach at Wyoming. I know he was at UNLV. I'm not sure if he had a stint as a head coach there or not, but he had a great line about that. We were sitting there watching this JUCO practice, there to recruit. We're from all over the country. He came from Utah, and the team is there like just stretching for like ever, just forever. We're just trying to watch this kid play. And he had a great one line. He said, bad teams meet and stretch and good teams practice. And like I love that. It's like my favorite quote, and I use it all the time now. But it's true. Like I've been on so many bad teams. We would meet all the time. Team meeting, stretch, make sure we're loose. Like, what are we doing?
Oh, it's so true. It's so true. I completely agree. Well, you know what? I'll throw one other one out there since we're on the topic, because this one's got just listening to you, Adam, got the wheels turn a little bit. How about drills with cones? Like, you've got these guys that are, 7 foot tall. They've got size shoes. I know they're supposed to be dynamic, and we're trying to teach them to be fluid and so forth. And I don't want to see a knee, get blown out because they step on a cone. That's my other one. That's my other pet peeve.
We were in the gym the other day. I was at Wnba, and a ball rolled across the floor. I'm just wondering if you guys are wired. Like, do you still have the manager in you that when a ball goes rolling on a floor near a player, you're like, everyone stop, everyone stop.
Yeah, absolutely. That's especially depending on who's on the floor. Yes, yeah. I mean, there's some high-profile players out there. You see me, that's where I'm going to die. You'll see me die rather than having a player die from the drill. That's
right.
I'm not going to lie. I panicked and froze. I just stood there like, and afterwards I was like, come on, Adam, like you're really getting soft here. When in my coaching day, I would have been all over that ball.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, I guess I lost it. I lost a step. I'm a step slow. All right, Brandon, talk to us a little bit. We've got an unbelievable event next week, and credit to you for putting together Science of Basketball. We put together some great pointed topics, and are bringing in some of the most forward-thinking people in all of sports, and the whole world will join us next week virtually. Before we get into all that, tell us, like, where did this even start? Where did the Science of Basketball come from?
Can I tell a story that doesn't have a beginning, middle, or end to it?
Please, those are the best kind.
So when I was in the G League, goodness, it was probably about 5 or 6 years ago as an assistant coach, and you guys know this, you get assigned players, and usually it's by position group. And the position group I got assigned was the point guards, and try to take each of those guys out for lunch, get a bite to eat, spend time with them, get to know them as people. And all 3 of them had the same exact goals, right? Average a triple-double, start, win a championship, which obviously appreciated, and then make it to the NBA. And so from that, what I started to kind of figure out for my own is, all right, what's the best bang for my buck, so to speak? We can train, and Jimmie, I know you've talked about this, we can train the mind, the body, the craft. And as basketball coaches, we're supposed to focus in on just the craft. But the more you start to realize with players, we all know this, that getting sleep, eating right, having a routine, those things are so, so important to success. And I felt like the more I started to get to know the guys that I was coaching and working with, those were the areas where we could make more improvements in. And so kind of fast forward through the year or the season, you're giving your blood, sweat, and tears trying to help these guys. The mission of still trying to make it to the NBA, that never changes. But for each individual guy having their own specific goals and needs and areas of focus, I felt like I had to kind of diversify like what I knew. And so we get to the end of the season, and Jimmie knows this too really well, that typically the players don't come back. It's there's not a high rate of return. Guys usually, if I'm working with 3 point guards, the likelihood of all 3 coming back is slim to none. You might be lucky if you get 1 back. And we get kind of a month into the summertime. I'm still, talking to these guys. They're talking about coming out to Arizona to train. And all 3 of them then tell me they want to come back. And I don't want to say like panic sets in, but it's like, man, I just gave you guys everything I've got. I got to get better as a coach and figure out ways to improve. And kind of around that time was when I was getting exposed to some of the stuff that Chris Oliver was putting out with Basketball Immersion, And his site and what he's done is dramatically changed from back then. Dr. Gray, Rob Gray, who's a professor here at Arizona State, who's also going to speak at the conference. He's an expert in skill acquisition. And so I just kind of felt myself getting pulled in that direction to learn more in that space. I went to Dr. Gray, and probably actually deserves as much credit as anybody for this conference coming together. He put on a skill acquisition conference, and predominantly the majority of the speakers were baseball background, football background. But what I was finding is, like, I remember I got myself into a conversation with a hitting coach, and I kid you not, like, we probably talked for about 45 minutes, and I kept equating the process of learning to go through becoming a great hitter to form shooting. And there were a lot of things that I picked up listening to him talk about how he trains hitters and how he develops hitters, equating back to basketball. And so what I wanted to do, and kind of how this whole conference really came together, was go and find the people that I've learned from really over the last 5 years, the people that I admire, that I think are just absolute studs, experts in their space, bring them together. It's a very eclectic group of people. By all means, you've got people that aren't really in the basketball space, but they're going to really be able to talk about what subject matters we want them to get into and do a deep dive. So that's where this is all kind of coming from, and how this has all kind of come together here.
Yeah, and of course you can find all the information on risingcoaches.com, the full list of speakers. I was going to ask if there's a panel that you're most interested in, but Jimmie, go ahead and jump in first.
No, I mean, I think this is going to bring out much higher level thinking coaches to an event that's never been done before. I think, I was intrigued, like when I heard Science of Basketball, I was kind of like, oh, what's that? And I seen the speakers, the topics, and I was like, wow. So I think you're going to get the next level coaches, that the people that buy into this stuff now are going to be the ones that set themselves way ahead of the game. Like we said, it's not just about the craft, it's about everything else too that, makes you a great coach. And no, I'm excited about next week.
And Jimmie, you talked about this a little bit earlier this morning when I was listening to you and Adam talk. Like, as you know, being a head coach, whether it's the G League, NBA, college basketball, staff sizes are getting pretty big. And right. You better take kind of a holistic approach, and you better understand the role that the analytics department plays, and your sport performance coaches, your mental performance coaches. Like, as a head coach, I think you have a responsibility to pull all those people in and try to get everybody moving in the same direction. And I think, an issue that you see a lot of NBA teams go through is there's a lot of silos up between those different departments, and they're not working together, and they're not streamlined. And so I think this conference might knock down some of those walls, and as Chris Oliver always likes to say, stimulate some thinking here, and get coaches talking about, some of these different topics that maybe are a little bit foreign to really entering a basketball office or a basketball staff meeting, for example.
Yeah, I'm going to give a quick rundown here of some of the topics. We've got the art of shooting, how to help players reach peak performance, constraints and ecological ideas in basketball. That, someone smart's doing that one. I can't even say all the words in it.
They have a PhD. They have doctor in front of their name.
Yeah, exactly. Building a player development blueprint, athlete cognition, the science of clutch plays. That sounds fascinating. The future of integrating technology into basketball, performance psychology, building winning teams, designing an analytically driven offense and defense, what makes an elite sports performance program, designing a year-round conditioning program, and emotional intelligence. Like you guys said, these are topics that are some of them arguably the most important things you can work on. I mean, the mental part of the game is everything, and the physical part is right there with it. And this is a deep dive into those things. Is there a panel in particular, Brandon and Jimmie, that you hear that gets you excited, that you're like marking the calendar for?
Jimmie, go first.
For me, there's people that are speaking on it that I'm excited to listen to. Obviously we've known Danny Mills for a long time, and getting him talking about building a team, kind of how he views it. Just given the time of the year too that we're in, that's important to me too, as we kind of round out our roster. So something I'm thinking about. And then Mike Procopio and the guys he has speaking with him too, just player development. It's a major player development time for us. We play in a month, but we have a month with our guys to work with before the season. It's always about player development in the G League for sure. So those things are most relevant to me right now. But, you know, I can't say that I'm not looking forward to any other topic either. Like, I'm looking to see everything. So.
Yeah, one thing that was a goal of ours with kind of putting this thing together, like when you're in an NBA staff meeting, you might have, you know, accumulated 200 years of coaching experience in that room. And the question that gets asked to the room is like, how are we going to guard this dribble handoff? And the beauty of having all these different experiences all in one room is now all of a sudden there's like this healthy debate that takes place. And I think that's how you learn and how you grow. And so, like, for example, with the art of shooting, you know, the people we have on that panel are people that I've worked with before, and they've all approached shooting in a little bit different way. And I think all of them are the best at what they do and in their areas. But what I'm excited to see is when you put them all in one room together, like, what direction does that conversation go? You know, and when different philosophies kind of get challenged with one another, that's why some of these panels I think are going to be really, really good for that reason, that you've just got people that are complete experts in their space and are going to be able to challenge one another and probably take a deeper dive than what it could be if it was just them solo on a panel.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great non-answer, Brandon. What panel are you most excited about?
Oh, goodness. I got my list over here.
He's
I'll
running
go first while you think about it. I'm excited for the
Yeah.
art of shooting, just as you know, I don't know, as a basketball guy. I'm fascinated in the clutch plays as well, like what makes, and diving into that sports psychology. And of course, I love the emotional intelligence stuff that Heather Macy talks about. But for me, the art of shooting and getting to hear some of the best in the world in teaching shooting, and what I think is cool, Crystal Robinson, one of the best shooters of all time in the WNBA, who also coaches, but you know, you're getting somebody who's actually done it and is on the top 10 in all the record books. Like, that's pretty great insight.
I love them all.
I'm
still not going to answer.
Like
You know, the one that I'm excited about, though, that I've spent a lot of time talking to the two speakers about is what makes an elite sports performance program. With Corey Schlesinger, who's with the Phoenix Suns, Dr. Ramsey, who's with the Kansas Jayhawks. Ramsey actually did a kind of a sport performance symposium a few years ago, and I went out to it. It was phenomenal. He's, again, just a leading expert in his space. And what both those guys kind of asked me, like, hey, you know, who's asking us questions? What should we speak about? And I just said, listen, I'm going to give you guys probably 10 topics to maybe hit on. You guys can hit on all 10, or you can completely avoid all of them. We're just going to give you the mic and just go. Between the two of you guys, talk about the way you guys view the profession, the way you view, you know, your sport coaches a little bit. What do you think needs to change? What direction do you think the profession is going? I think those two guys are going to absolutely crush it and be really fun to listen to. And again, both those guys too, I think, have also pushed the envelope a little bit in terms of getting more and more into the sports space, into the coaching piece of it. And so I think they're going to bring up some topics and get into some different areas that, again, we're not really talking about much as coaches. But I think it's going to be probably a little bit more common here as we progress, where you've got your sport performance coach making a lot more of the decisions in terms of what, and Jimmie, you guys were talking about, you know, load management. Like, those people are now a part of your meetings. They're a part of your practice planning process, your season organization. And so those two guys, I think, are going to be absolutely fantastic.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Head to risingcoaches.com for a full list of the speakers, the full itinerary. Come join us for free next week. If you're a member, just head to the member site. If you're not a member and you want to attend, no problem. We're offering a free 17-day trial. You can sign up for that, enjoy the conference on us, and then hopefully decide to stick around with Rising Coaches for the year. If you decide it's not for you, you can cancel at any time without being charged. So we're really looking forward to it. The response has been off the charts. We got almost 400 people signed up for this week-long virtual event. And so we're really excited to dig into it. Starting Monday night, get your popcorn ready. We'll be there. Brandon, I appreciate you jumping on, man. Any closing thoughts for us before we let you go?
No, my 5 minutes of social media takeover with rising coaches and Jimmie Oakman has come to an end. Jimmie, impressive job here, man. You're 4 days in. You're going to fifth day, right? You're going tomorrow too?
Yeah, we're making it happen, man. We're gonna close out the week on a high note. So
awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you guys letting me be a part of it.
Thanks, Brandon. Take care, man. Enjoy.
See you guys.
We said hello. Yeah. All right, that was Brandon Rosenthal, Arizona State basketball. Always great to connect with Brandon, of course. One of the rising coaches, managing partners, one of the rising coaches OGs, and doing great things at Arizona State basketball. It's going to be exciting to see what they do this year. They've got they loaded up some great transfers, some really good returners. Watch out for the Sun Devils. And in the Pac-12, which surprised some people. They didn't surprise me because I grew up a Pac-12 guy coming up from
they had a great run in the tournament. They were, man, they're like the opposite of SEC football. Everybody was sleeping on them, and then all of a sudden they just blew up. It was just complete polar opposite. Like, I was there for it to see it all, so that was impressive.
Absolutely. Well, in a little bit, we'll be joined by Eric Gracia with Penn State women's basketball, and we'll talk a little bit about his transition. He just took that job about a month ago. Anytime you take a new job, it goes 1,000 miles an hour. So we appreciate him taking some time to catch up with us for a few minutes and talk about that, as well as I'm sure we'll talk to him a little bit about some of the Wnba games that went down last night. Some great games, setting up a very exciting game 5. And again, lots going on in Rising Coaches. Head to risingcoaches.com. You can find the women's empowerment series that we did last week. I'm sorry, at the beginning of this week, October 4th and 5th. Some great panels. You can watch that on our YouTube page or on risingcoaches.com. And you can find all the info that you'll need for the science of basketball. I do want to say this, Jimmie, before we dive into our next topic. We're going to talk a little bit just about the coaching profession in general. But we started our next up head coach training initiative last night. Was round 1. And again, this is an event sponsored through our DEI Alliance, which is made up of a dozen different minority and social justice coaching groups. And each group nominated two coaches to take part. We narrowed it down to 12 total. And last night was our first group of 4. It was phenomenal. Herb Courtney with Renaissance Search is leading it. And what he did is he assigned each participant a school that they could potentially legitimately be up for, something in their region, like something that may potentially come open soon. And they had to prepare for it. Herb gave them, a 30-minute one-on-one interview and was giving them the feedback he was giving them was spot on. It's cool to see Herb grow through this profession. He's fairly new to it, but he is taking it over. He's really great experience.
Awesome. I know you had him on to talk before during the pandemic, and obviously he's a former basketball coach too, so he gets it, like we were talking about. And man, just being able to connect with him over these past few months has been awesome. Nothing but a great dude. Like, he's going to be the star of this for a long time. And the fact that he's willing to do this, and the candidates that you guys have, I know a few of them, they're going to be head coaches soon enough. So I wouldn't be surprised. I know we had 3 of 12 last year that got head jobs. It wouldn't surprise me if that was higher this year. So I'm excited to see what it looks like going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So last night was Jesse Pruitt of Stanford, Kevin Sutton of Florida Gulf Coast, Greg Gottlieb with Grand Canyon, and Corey Irvin with Illinois. And all 4 of them were great. I mean, you say those names and you're like, holy cow, that's pretty good.
Their names. You already know the names.
Yeah. But they were great. They were great and polished. And like you said, it's not going to be a surprise if they end up getting head coaching jobs very, very soon. But at the same time, it's unbelievable experience for them because you can't get these reps anywhere. This is not something you can just sign up to do. And so it just validates the whole thing. And so proud of the DEI Alliance and what Daryl Jacobs and Brian Burton and Kim Hampton have helped put together and build. Very excited for night 2 tonight. So it'll be good.
No, I'm curious to see how it kind of goes from there. And, like you said, you can't get those reps anywhere. And being a part of one of these groups, a part of Rising Coaches as well is, invaluable just to what you can do for your career. So definitely check it out and be a part of this. And, you know, hopefully one day you can be chosen to be on Next Up, because obviously it's going to pay dividends. So,
Jimmie, you were busy last night too. You hosted a Zoom for us on end of game
yeah,
situations. How did that go? Tell us a little bit about that.
it was great, man. Like, you know, I try to tell everybody anything that I host, I don't like lecturing. That's not my deal. Like, I'm not a teacher. I'm not a professor. I'm a basketball coach. I want to share and make it collaborative. We had a good group of guys on there. You know, I presented some information. I wasn't trying to blow your mind about it, more to stimulate your own thinking going forward, and then diving into my process of scouting in specific for end of game situations. We've had coaches from high school, college, AAU, professional games. So we got a little bit of everything, and kind of, step 1 through 10, what does it look like for you to evaluate a team given parameters that you may or may not have, right? Like, so if you're a member of Rising Coaches, you can go check it out. It's already posted. I posted last night. So I was, if you want to check it out, if you're in high school, what can you do if you don't have film? Like if you're in the pro game, it's a little bit different. What can you do? So we kind of hit on all different topics. I thought we got a lot out of it. It was a good shared experience. I think that's what it's always about. And, trying to bring people together, share ideas, and, kind of grow this game.
Absolutely. It looked like you guys had a great conversation. And like you said, it's posted on the member site. So if you missed it last night, no worries. You can go back and watch it at your leisure. Just head to risingcoaches.com, log in. If you're not a member, go check it out. There's a free trial. You can go check it out for free along with the science of basketball.
See, I get a plug there. I was even thinking ahead because I saw it pop up last night. So
I appreciate it. You're getting good at this, Jimmie. You're getting comfortable in this chair, I think.
Man, I didn't get a mic downstairs. I guess, I might need to get that set up for Friday and, see where this thing takes me.
Hey, while we're on the topic, please give us some feedback here. We appreciate you guys listening. I know we get more listeners than I'd ever imagine would actually listen to us sit around and talk hoops. But give us some feedback. Is this something that you like this format? Is this something that we should keep going with? Should we bring in a guest to spend 3, 4, 5 days with us and talk hoops and talk the profession? Or is this just terrible to watch, and you want us to
ruin the experience for everybody?
Get back to programming as usual. So we appreciate any feedback you get. You can always email me, Adam@risingcoaches.com, or shoot us a line on social media. We've got several people checking the DM, slide into the DMs, as they would say.
Yeah.
Let us know what you think. Jimmie, before we bring in our final guest, let's talk a little bit about the coaching profession. This is a profession that is like, there's no right or wrong answer. There's really no roadmap. It can be really, high highs and low lows. It's a little bit different now. I think, the college game profession and like the pro game, there are probably 2 different circles that you got to run in. Just give us your overall thoughts on it and the differences between the 2.
Yeah, it's a tough business. I think the main thing I've always tried to realize is you got to understand why you're in this business and what makes it gratifying for you. And if you're in it for the wrong reasons, and that could be fame, that could be money, and if you're chasing one of those 2 things, it's going to be hard to reach the success that you probably want to get. So no matter where you're at, whatever it is, like just do the best that you can in that job and stop looking to the next job. And I think a lot of people lose sight of that, or they want to jump in, or I'm better than that coach, or I'm better than this. I think if you're always trying to do the best for your players at the time and making sure your job is the number one thing on your plate, you'll find success if that's what you care about, and that's winning and taking care of your players. So I always try to keep that in the big picture of things. Like I've never tried to chase money or fame or anything like that, or the level was never really a thing for me. Things kind of worked out for me. Like this career is not linear. There's going to be a lot of ups and downs. A lot of things aren't going to be fair in this business. It's a lot of who knows who, and rather than what you know. But at the same time, the game is the game. You got to study the game and be an expert at the game. And, we know that, coaches in this business get fired all the time, shouldn't get fired, or people get jobs that probably shouldn't get jobs. But I think you always want to put yourself in position to be ready for the next step when your number is called. And regardless of where you're at, some people, I'm excited that Eric's going to be on this call because I've talked to Eric and I've known him for a long time. And to see that he's at a Power 5 school, I'm not surprised. And I think the advice I gave to him years ago, it's not going to change now. And I think he's not going to change his process of how he looks going forward. And success for him, it's found him. I see everything he was doing with Fran Fraschilla and doing things the right way. And, he probably wasn't coaching the right level that he wanted to be at. But now, I don't want to say you skip steps because he's deserved it and earned it, but at Penn State now, like that's amazing. So the business is fun. There's no path that takes you anywhere you think you can get to, but it's a beautiful game, and you got to take care of it.
Well, brilliant segue there. We're going to bring in our final guest here, Eric Gracia, the man himself, Penn State women's basketball. Eric, what's up, man? How are you?
What's up, y'all? Y'all making me blush over here, man.
Oh, man, welcome.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. Good to see you as always, man. We were just talking the profession. Like Jimmie alluded to, it was what, a month and a half ago you were coaching high school ball in Dallas, and now I'm seeing your Instagram stories. You're in Happy Valley at the football games, which looks like an amazing atmosphere, by the way. That's
absolutely a whole insane.
But that's a quick come up, man. Like Jimmie said, well deserved, and it's not quick because it, like everything, it looks like an overnight sensation, but people don't see the years of grinding that go into it. But talk about that transition. How's it been? Have you even had a second to come up for air and really appreciate it?
Man, I tell you what, I appreciate it every morning when I come into the office. And a lot of people do see it as like an overnight come up or overnight success. But I mean, it was 7 years in the doing. Jimmie mentioned earlier, I've known Jimmie for a while now. When I was 23 and I had my first coaching job, I DM'd, over 200, 300 people on LinkedIn. And I was like, hey, I just want to get into college coaching. Can you help? Any advice? Anything helps? And Jimmie was one of 3 people that responded to my DMs, and one of 3 people that was willing to jump on a phone call with me. And Jimmie jumped on a phone call with me for about 30, 45 minutes. And he just told me, he was like, man, you got to make yourself stand out. You got to set yourself apart. You got to develop these skills, da, 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 da. And it was things that I took with me and I used for the last 7 years that I'm still using now, even here at Penn State. So I'll always be thankful to you, Jimmie, because like I said, over 200, 300 people, and you were willing to jump on the phone with me. And I think at the time you were still at BU. But it just, for me, it changed my life to have that conversation, because in that moment I was like, oh man, I really don't know what to do. How can I, everybody tells you oh, AAU and this, that, the other, but to have feedback, no, you got to set yourself apart. That stuck with me. But as far as the job goes and the transition, in June, I was high school job where I had been for 7 years and 2 years as a head coach. And then, out of nowhere, it just, Penn State kind of happened, and everything worked out. And now I've been here for about a month and a couple weeks, and I'm like, man, nobody told me it gets cold in October. I thought October was still a hot month coming from, South Texas, where I'm from, and even in Dallas, it's still hot.
No, it's amazing. I remember years when we first started talking, just your skill set then, with graphic design and Photoshop and doing things for programs and stuff, and just you did it all the right ways. And it's seeing that story and seeing where you're at now, it's not a surprise. It takes time, and it's just you keep hitting the rock, and then all of a sudden, one day, it's not an overnight. It's 7 years of that, and people want the fast track way to get it. And if you just do it long enough, it's gonna click. You don't know when, but for you, it made me happy as hell to see you post about it and you get the job. That made my day. So I'm happy for you, man. That's amazing.
I appreciate it. That's one thing a lot of people say is you keep hitting the rock, and you never know when that hit's going to be the one that breaks it. And when you're on the other side of that conversation and you've been hitting that rock, and you're starting to think man, that rock is never going to break. What? And, but you just got to trust it. I think I was fortunate to have some good people around me. Adam, you're one of them. Jimmie, you're one of them. Fran Fraschilla, a couple other coaches that kind of I don't know if they knew what I was thinking, but out of nowhere, even now, I'll get DMs on Twitter, and out of nowhere, people would just be like, hey man, keep going. You're close. hey, keep going. And it's a little encouraging things like that. Like to somebody, it might be like, oh yeah, let me text such and such and just be like, hey man, keep going. But like to me, I mean, there was days where I was ready to be like, man, you know what? Like, whatever, man. I'm just, and so to get those messages was really encouraging. And, you know, a lot of people had some really nice things to say, you know, once they got posted that I had gotten the job. And so I'm just thankful for everybody. It was really cool to know that I had a support system that maybe I'd never met in person or anything like that. And they just liked my Twitter videos or whatever it was. But to have that support system, like randomly reach out and be like, hey man, keep going. Like that's huge.
Yeah, that is a great reminder. And we should do it more because I know we all get caught up in the day-to-day of our jobs and there's so much going on, but those little text messages, they go such a long way. And you don't have to be anybody to send a text. You don't have to be this established person, just any words of encouragement. And you never know what the person's going through and how it affects them. But I mean, just the other day, I sent a random one to like a head coach that's spoken, a BCS head coach that's spoken and done a lot for rising coaches. And he, you know, thank you so much. Just a random text. Don't need anything. Just want to, sorry, I got like a fly flying around me. Just want to let you know how much I appreciate you. And, you know, he hit me a couple of days later. Hey, that meant so much. You know, like it just reminds us of our why. You know, when we're all in this thing to impact lives, but we forget about that when you're in the day-to-day, and there's not much positive feedback in this profession, and it is a challenging profession. So when you get an opportunity, yeah, Eric, great reminder, like reach out to people, let them know they're doing a great job, and let them know what they mean to you.
Oh yeah, I mean, even people like yesterday. I mean, I went to our managers after practice, and I just had to dap them all up and be like, hey man, I appreciate y'all. Y'all do a great job for us, and just kind of like reminding people. You never know what's going on in somebody's life, what they went through that day before they got to practice or what they went through before you sent that text message. And I mean, it could mean the world to somebody. So.
All right, Eric, before we get into the poll question and before we get into some WNBA, which I want to talk WNBA playoffs with you. Tell us like what's been the biggest, I don't know, the coolest experience at Penn State so far, the most surprising thing about that level. Give us some sort of insight of like something in the last 6 weeks that's really kind of taken you aback.
The coolest experience was definitely that whiteout game. Being on the sideline for that whiteout game and seeing, I caught a video of it and I put it on my Instagram of like the stadium singing along to Meek Mill's Dreams or Nightmares. And like, I'll still go back and watch that video and be like, is this even real? Like, am I really here right now? Like, so like, that's been the coolest experience so far. And then I forgot your other question.
Well, just anything, any surprise in terms of like the adjustment to that level, like where you're like, wow, this really is a different deal than what I've been.
The biggest adjustment, the biggest surprise is the feeling of like being surrounded by people that are like committed to excellence. Not to say that at my previous job they weren't, but like at my previous job, I was the head coach. And I mean, we were in inner city high school, so we didn't have a ton of resources. So, you know, my assistants kind of knew basketball, but it wasn't necessarily like, oh, I want to pursue basketball. So it was kind of like, you know, you get help, but that's it. Here, it's almost like everybody's like on go mode, like pursuing excellence 24/7. And the feeling of being around that just kind of like pushes you to work even harder, pushes you to put in that extra hour of film or whatever it is. So I don't know that that's a surprise because I was, in my mind coming in, I was like, oh man, it's Power 5. Like it's going to be intense. It's going to be whatever. But like when you can actually walk into the room and feel it, it's like, okay, I gotta get on. Like I gotta get on it.
I love it. Eric, have you been keeping up with the WNBA playoffs? And I imagine there's a lot of like trash talk in your locker room. I'm sure people have their teams that they like and root for. Did you watch last night's games?
I watched a little bit. I'm going to be honest with you. I haven't like turned my TV on for more than like 15 minutes.
You're busy. You're a busy man.
Yeah. Yeah. I try to catch like 10 minutes of Ted Lasso while I eat dinner. and then right back to it.
Uh,
But I know Coach Keeger here coached point guard for the Sun, so I think everybody's kind of keeping an eye on the Sun, unless they got eliminated and
they did.
scratch
The
that.
Sky took him down last night in a dominant performance.
Oh
Chi-
man, scratch
Chicago,
that from the interview.
yeah, no, Chicago moves on to the finals, and the Aces and Mercury has been like a back and forth series. It's going to Game 5 Friday night, so that should be fun to watch. Anytime you get Diana Taurasi in an elimination game, I'm tuning in.
Anything could happen with her.
The GOAT.
Oh yeah, I saw like 5 minutes of the game, and she tried to draw a foul on a 3, didn't get it, and then the next time down, tried to draw a foul on the 3 and nailed it in the defender's face. And I was just like, she's a murderer. Like that's a stone cold assassin right there.
Absolutely. All right, Eric, we got to get you to chime in on the poll question today. The poll question is, what is your least favorite drill? Glenn Hicks on Twitter hit us back. Any stationary passing drill. I love it. Totally agree. Jimmy does not like the charge drills and diving on the floor. Brandon Rosenthal was on earlier. He hates stretching. What do you got, Eric? What's your least favorite drill?
Anything that has to do with like running without a basketball like live situation. Like if am I answering this as a player?
No, as a coach, just your whatever.
Oh, no, make them run as a coach. Make them run. No, yeah, anything that's just running, like running in general, just running. So if it's like some conditioning stuff, I'm not with it.
Not with it. How do you get
condition with the ball, like
condition
through live situations, through live play, whatever. But I mean, yeah, I'm not a fan of like get on the baseline. We're gonna run for the next 45 minutes. Like, no.
I'm gonna throw out mine. I'm gonna throw out a hot take here. My least favorite drill is any closeout drill that's not live, where it's just like closeouts.
Oh yeah, I gotta jump in. I see.
Oh yeah.
That I seen one the other day from a team that posted theirs, and 4 guys on the perimeter, everyone throws a ball. It's a terrible closeout. They jump when they pump fake, and then they box out. Like, number one, all right, if you're trying to block a 3-point shot, you're probably wrong. And then you're blocked, like you don't box out a 3-point shooter. Like the ball's not coming off 30 feet and coming at you. Like it's such a waste. And you have the coaches like, come on, I'm like, all right, this is awful. And it's on Twitter. I'm like, come on, guys, what are you doing? Like,
yeah, if you're boxing out the 3-point shooter at 30 feet, you probably shouldn't have closed out on him anyway and let him shoot that one.
Well, and the thing is, like, coaches will do that for like 15 minutes. Like, they're so long. And I used to really struggle. Yeah, I used to really struggle as an assistant coach because those are supposed to be like energy hype drills. And you're supposed to be into it. And I'd be over there like, come on, Adam. Like, come on, you can give some energy for 10, 12 more minutes on this BS closeout drill. But I hate them. I hate them.
That's a great take, and that should be everywhere.
That's a good take. That's a good take. You got to put that on Twitter, man.
Yeah,
it's not that I don't appreciate and understand the importance of closing out. I just don't like working on closing out with no ball.
That's absolutely useless.
Eric, I do want to get back to this too. I know we're running out of time here, so just another minute here. But you mentioned at the jump that your conversation with Jimmy, led to like thinking about how to set yourself apart. Can you just dive into that a little bit more? Like, what couple of things did you focus on that you feel did set you apart in this profession?
Well, one, I try to focus on being a good person and taking everything like, as a way to improve. I did a lot of consulting and freelancing, a lot of it for free too. And it was kind of like, I could have been like, oh man, I got this text message at 11 o'clock at night. Like, and it's like, oh, I want to sleep because I have to be at work tomorrow at 7 a.m., whatever. But instead it was like, yeah, I'll jump up and I'll get right back to you and I'll do whatever. A couple of things that I focused on was Photoshop for sure, like taught myself Photoshop by watching YouTube videos and reaching out to like creative people from universities and stuff and asking them questions. And then from there, just getting really lucky and being able to get access to softwares like Synergy, Sports Code, Coach Paint. I was able to get access to a lot of that stuff that normally isn't available to people that aren't on a professional or high level collegiate staff. And then little things like Adobe Premiere, to be able to create highlight videos or motivational videos. Yeah, I'm trying to answer as fast as I can because I don't know if we're on a timer or something, but those are some of the things that I was like, yeah, I if I can learn those things and I can get really good at those things, I can set myself apart because I know that I know basketball, but so do 500 people in this city. So do 2 million people on Twitter. Like, a lot of people know basketball. Some of them think they know that, but a lot of people know basketball. I know basketball. That's not going to be enough to get me a job. Like, so it was like, okay, I'm going to focus in on these things and I'm going to get really good at these things. And when the day comes and somebody calls me and they're like, hey, can you do this? I want my answer to be like, yeah, I can. And I want to be able to knock it out of the park. And so that was just kind of something that I focused on.
Great stuff. Eric, we appreciate you joining us, man. I know you got a ton going on there in Happy Valley. So thanks for taking the time. It's always good to catch up, man.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me.
Hey, man.
All right,
Great
take
to
care.
see you.
All right, that was Eric Gracia with Penn State women's basketball. We're back here live with Jimmie Oakman of the Long Island Nets. Just wrapping up. It's been fun, Jimmy. This is day 4 or 5. Tomorrow morning is the bringing in the closer.
Oh man, yeah, that's I'm excited. We gotta wrap up the week on a high note, and you know, as the NBA season approaches, it's gonna keep getting better and better. So I'm excited for it.
Absolutely. Well, Jimmy, it's been fun. We'll see you tomorrow for more information on anything we've talked about, including the Science of Basketball Conference kicking off next Monday night. Head to risingcoaches.com. Sign up for a membership, offering a free 17-day trial right now with the coupon code Science of B-Ball. We'll see you guys tomorrow, same time, same place, live on all social media channels. Jimmie Oakman, the total takeover continues. Thanks, everybody.